What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. DJ Khaled might be at his popularity peak. He is everywhere. He's all over commercials. He's all over the radio, and you really can't escape DJ Khaled. So for his 10th studio album titled Grateful, Khaled decided to do some new things. For instance, his 8-month-old son, Assad, is the executive producer. And he's on the cover. He's been pretty much a huge part of the marketing campaign. Aside from that, though, this is Khaled's longest album at 23 songs. It features damn near everybody you can think of, from the big names to Drake and Jay-Z to the little guys like Kodak Black and Mavado, and even some names that you wouldn't have expected to be on a Khaled album. So now the question is, does Khaled have some magic formula that makes this length of an album work? Can Khaled capitalize off of all his success and create an album that lives up to that hype? Instead of doing my traditional, these are my favorite songs, this is my least favorite songs, I decided that I'm going to just observe. These are all my observations from the start of the album to the end of the album, everything that I was thinking while I listened multiple times. So first things first were the singles. Most of the singles are at the beginning of the album, and after listening to them even more, I can conclude that Shining and Wild Thoughts are my favorites. I don't think that Beyonce and Jay-Z brought the best of the best on Shining, but I like the song. It works. It's a hit record, obviously judging off the fact that it's been successful on radio. And then Wild Thoughts, which came out a couple weeks ago, it's just a great record. I'm not a big Bryson Tiller fan, but he's tolerable on this record. The real star is Rihanna. Rihanna is just so seductively amazing on this song. And I love the Carlos Santana sample on the beat. Like, the beat is one of the coldest on the album in my opinion. However, if we're talking about singles, To the Max is still awful. I don't know what Drake was thinking when he made that song, but it just doesn't do anything. Coming off of the singles, Big Sean has decided to respond to Kendrick Lamar on a record titled On Everything. Unfortunately, you have to suffer through one of the worst Travis Scott hooks I've ever heard to get there. Like, literally, this is a nails on the chalkboard situation. I don't know why he chose to have that much auto-tune on his voice, but there is a limit to what works and what doesn't, and this is auto-tune overkill. But when you do get to Big Sean's verse, it's not bad. I feel like he's confident for responding, but none of the jabs really do anything like major. Nobody's going like, oh my god, he killed it, he's going to be a huge contender to Kendrick. No, nobody's thinking that. But you do have to commend him for having the confidence to respond. And I think Big Sean is still capable of more than what he's giving on this verse. He talks about how nobody can stop him except God. Now, if Kendrick responds, that will be something that Kendrick flips on him, because Kendrick is in many people's eyes like a rap god, and I'm sure he would kind of flip that in some way, shape, or form back at Big Sean. At least that's how I would think about it. But my favorite line from Big Sean's verse was Rockefeller chain, but you can still get ethered. Again, it's not a crazy line, it's above decent at best, but it was like the most memorable line in regards to responding to Kendrick. So I don't know if this is going to go further, but it's clear that Big Sean is ready when the time comes. He's not backing down. There are few artists that have worked with Khaled that have such an immaculate record. Nas was someone who I held in that high regard. Every song that they did together came off as just epic. It was great. Nas gave you his all. And unfortunately, that stopped on this album with a record called It's Secured. This one features Travis Scott, and whoever suggested that those two have a collaboration together is just, no. Sorry, it just didn't work. It failed. The sad part about It's Secured is that it kind of ruins what I feel was a strong guest feature run from Nas. Nas, in maybe like the last 2 or 3 years, whenever he popped up on a guest feature, he really wasn't missing. He was going off. Like, go to Wikipedia and look at all the songs that he's been featured on in the last few years. You probably won't find a bad verse. At least I can't think of one off top. Another reason why this song is bad in my opinion is because Nas sounds offbeat. And according to Dewan Parker, who is an artist slash producer that came up under Dr. Dre, he's a part of a duo called AOE, they're signed to Def Jam. He sent out a tweet that said Nas tends to write and record a cappella, and then he'll send that to people and they will do what they want to do with it. And so that's what I get the vibe this situation was. Again, that's not confirmation, but the fact that it's offbeat, the fact that Nas doesn't sound like he's supposed to be on this song, it makes a lot of sense. Nas is someone who really values his pen game. You know, rap is like his baby. And speaking of babies, there's a record on here called I Love You So Much. Now, I'm all for honoring your children and making songs about them, but I feel like this one just never hits its stride. Chance the Rapper, I guess, was going for a fun-filled song, but it never really gets there. In fact, it's a weird song for me. I'm listening to it, and at the beginning, Chance is talking about how he and his family are going to be taken over, like, repeatedly, over and over again. At one point, he recites the ABCs. There's another part where it's like, where's your mouth at? Where's your face at? Where's your ears at? Where's your nose at? I'm like, is this a rap song or like going for like a children's song? I don't know. I was so confused listening to this song. But I guess at the end of the day, it's not for me. I don't have kids, but I don't know. Even if I did have kids, I don't see myself enjoying this song. I can appreciate the effort, but it just wasn't executed in a way that makes it, memorable or good. So we've kind of highlighted the good, the bad, and now we're going to go back to the good. In fact, we're going to go to the best. On this album, what is the best song? Hands down, it's Good Man featuring Pusha T and Jadakiss. When I saw that on the track listing, I knew that they were going to go in. I knew that this song was going to be one of the best on the album because Pusha T doesn't spit no whack verses and Jadakiss doesn't either. So you bring them together, you're going to get something special, and that's exactly what Good Man is. I love this record a whole lot. I think Pusha T was going off. It makes me want King Push even more. Like, I'm really excited for that album every time I hear something new from Pusha T. At the end of his first verse, Pusha T says, I'm on the wrong side of the law, like Pac was on the wrong side of the car. You gotta appreciate that. You gotta appreciate Pusha T's lyricism. And then in the second verse, he goes back to like his street roots and, talking about selling drugs. Like, that is where Pusha T shines. And no matter how many times he does it, he's always going to be great at doing so. The other record that I really enjoyed, and I would give a close second to, is Belly's Interlude. It's kind of crazy that when you have an album with heavy hitters, like the biggest of the biggest, and then you got Belly, who's down here. No disrespect to Belly, but he's not the biggest name on the album by far. And somehow he ends up having one of the better songs. I was surprised. But then again, I'm not surprised because Belly is a good artist. I've praised him. I've done reviews on his past work. So this was one of those records that I was like, okay, this might be like the sleeper type of record. I feel like Khaled had no input in this. Maybe Belly had this song just lying around and he was like, okay, you can have this. Take this, put it on the album. Khaled had no input. And that shows. I think it was an overall good song that is just too far into the track listing. It's almost at the end of the album, and by then you're just kind of like tired. You're kind of like, why is this album so long? That's another thing that I was thinking about. There is too much filler on this album. And I get why Khaled did it. Khaled wants those streaming numbers. He wants those sales and having a double disc album physically, and then having all these songs for the streaming services, that's going to propel him to an easy #1, I feel. My last observation was on a record called Whatever. So 2 Chainz says that he got a new Rolex, and so his old Rolex is trying to sue him. Literally, I can't say anything more. Like, that is, I can't make it sound any greater than it already is. A lot of rappers beef with each other, but 2 Chainz like to create beef between inanimate objects, and that is just, it's epic, it's amazing. DJ Khaled might have released his worst album with Grateful, replacing I Changed a Lot in the process. There is a valuable lesson here in that more collaborations from DJ Khaled is not necessarily going to make a greater product. It might look good on paper, but when you actually hear the music, it doesn't sound as good. Not even Khaled can pull off 23 songs, but the blame can't be solely on him. The rappers themselves, if they're not giving 100%, then they should be held accountable as well. So a lot of that falls on the rappers here. Again, some of the collaborations just don't work. Like, you put these guys together and it looks good, but it might not translate well. You might have a standout verse, think of 2 Chainz on Whatever, but the overall song just isn't it. I really felt like I was checked out halfway through the album, which kind of sucks because the better songs are towards the end. Like, you got the beginning has the singles, and some of the singles are good. Then it's like the middle part, no. And then like towards the end, the second half, is like, that's where there's a few good songs here and there. I don't know what happened with Grateful, but it's just a train wreck. So those are my thoughts on DJ Khaled's Grateful. Let me know what you think about it when you listen to it. Is this album as bad as I think it is? Do you like the album? What was your favorite songs? What would you take off the album? Talk to me in the comments section below, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.